Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. India has been a place of action, and we have been seeing that how the government is keen to bring about transformative change in the Indian economy and politics to make India what we all know is to the economic power in the world around us. If you want political clout in the world, the country also needs to be economically powerful. And all the structural change that is being done in India is being opposed by some group or the other. India is a 1.3 billion people country, and not all groups will always be happy. There is no 100% solution for 100% satisfaction to every group of people. So as a result of which, somebody will be unhappy, and the Breaking India forces are active to disrupt that process. Their only goal is to prevent India becoming an economic superpower, which is what will be the net result if all the efforts that Prime Minister and the current government is trying to do. So we have seen Shaheen Bagh play out for political purposes. Now we are seeing how agriculture reforms, which have been termed as anti-farmer, but it's a very interesting conversation to be had. And now we notice that in the middle of the week, we had three so-called stars of American music industry and soft porn industry, was it? I do not know, who stepped in and let's talk about farmers and agriculture reform in India. That was pretty bizarre, which resulted in the modern era of mass social media, a flutter of activities, and Indian Congress and many so-called stars in India began to support in the name of democracy. Now, democracy runs on the rule of law. Democracy is supposed to protect and defend the political system and the people's rights, because they are the ones who vote the government to power. Now, what we are witnessing at this point in time is that criminal elements are exploiting the compassion of society and the laws. Human mind seeks conflict, and not everybody will be happy with any and all economic reform or political thing that happens, because there will be somebody who will be annoyed. So what happened to Mr. Trump in 2020 here, they are going to carry that battle to India in 2024 so that Mr. Modi doesn't succeed in doing what he wants to do. So the question here is, how do we address this issue? Where do we go from here? Did these people have any locus standi? One of the most dangerous things that happened was Greta from Sweden, who is a climate change so-called expert, despite not having completed her school as yet, the darling of the crowd on the left, whose tweet about how to go about organizing this entire thing was virtually an incitement of a riot in India, in a sovereign nation. What locus standi did she have? Look at the amount of preparation that went into this to showcase how the rioters must conduct themselves, what websites they should do, what you call emails they should use, what NGOs are supporting these elements. This is a very serious affair. This is a serious matter because it affects the country as a whole, India as a whole. Not only that, it is a direct interference in the peaceful life of a country that is a beacon of democracy in the world around us. And, so it is a very, very serious situation. To discuss this matter and talk about also the solution, what do we do next? I have great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Rakesh Sharma. Dr. Rakesh Sharma is known to the viewers of this program. He's the chief of medicine in St. Catherine's Hospital in Smithtown, and also the director of ICU, where he has been on the forefront of fighting coronavirus. Dr. Sharma, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And then I have Mr. Vimal Goyal, a very strong community activist and an entrepreneur. He's in real estate, and he takes a strong interest in issues relating to India and America. So welcome, Vimalji, as well. Welcome to the show, Vimalji.
Namaskar.
Let me kick off with one simple, the latest thing that has happened. And that is the famous email leak, if I may say so, by Greta Thunberg, who kind of laid out the plan how to disrupt the whole process on 26th January. Her email, her Twitter, which gave the blueprint and the starting point and all the strategy and tactics to be followed, which was a direct interference in the life of a sovereign nation like India, which is, in my humble opinion, and I believe so, a champion of democracy around the world and of people's rights. So Vimalji, your thoughts on this, how ugly it was, did it merit a kind of a attack? Did India deserve the kind of attack that she was plotting and planning? Who was helping her? The amount of time that was spent in organizing and coordinating a global movement, global incendiary act against India. Your thoughts on this, Vimalji?
Yeah, Vibhuti Ji, what happened on January 26th was not really what Indians would like to see. And it was an attack on the democracy of India. It was an attack on all the three acts that Mr. Modi has been trying to pass. He actually did pass, but what he's been trying to do is everything that he has done so far in changing the economic condition of farmers as well as India as a whole. And this is basically, it's MSP, minimum support price, that is only applied in Haryana and Punjab, because these are the two states that are dependent on this type of system, that other states are not. And that really causes the problem, because all these people have turned this into a Hindu-Sikh, a war kind of between Hindu and Sikh, rather than it started out as a farmers' protest, but then now it's turned into Hindu against Sikh, which is not a good indication. Now,
I'll just say one word here. Is it Hindu Sikh or is it Hindu Khalistanis? Because in my humble opinion, I think the whole lot of Sikhs are not Khalistanis. They are fighting for the farmers' rights. So their right to protest is a totally different ball game. And what I notice is the people who are supporting the farmers thing, the Khalistani elements have gone into this and they have kind of exploited and infiltrated in the whole process.
That's correct. And that's the reason why it has turned into, in my understanding, is between Hindu and Sikh, because Khalistani element has actually infiltrated into this whole thing. Because initially started as a farmer protest, which I kind of supported in the sense that in democracy, everyone has a right to come out and say, look, I don't like this, or whatever the reason is. The fact is that most of these people don't even understand what the laws are. Whatever the union leaders are telling them, whatever their political aspirants, who wants to be in the forefront of politics against Mr. Modi, and especially Congress and Akali Dal, as well as Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, they're trying to create this environment in India, which they have completely failed in doing it, that they think they can create this thing against Mr. Modi, because everything he comes out, every new policy that he comes out with, they would like to make a big scene about it, like being against it. So this way they can somehow make a political career out of what they are doing. Now, if you look at this, the way it started is, and I'll go over a little bit, that in Punjab and Haryana, in 1980s, most of the farmers started doing paddies and wheat, which is rice and gehu. And the reason why they were doing it, that they thought that was the easiest thing for them to do, because most of the labor comes from Bihar and UP, and they come in looking for a job, and they come in and work for them. So they thought these two were very easy. What happened was that rice uses so much water. The water table in Punjab and Haryana has gone down to such a low level that now they have to dig down 250 feet or 300 feet to get the water out. So all of these things, we've been telling farmers for the last 20, 30 years that, look, and government has been telling them that, look, you got to move away from wheat and rice, because there's abundance of wheat and rice in India, and there's not enough demand because the supply is so much and they can't get the price. But minimum support price is what we call is a welfare system. that is helping the farmers in Punjab and Haryana, because other states don't care about this welfare system, because they're fine. They don't need MSP. So what happened is that because of this whole situation is that Punjab and Haryana, they got so upset. Now, if you look at the political scene in these states, most of these states, they have Akali Dal that initially they supported the Modi government. Initially, they supported the law, as well as Shiv Sena in Maharashtra. But then they realized that what's going to happen is that BJP will get the benefit that they are the ones who created this thing, and they're helping the farmers, and they will get ahead in the political elections when the elections are held. So they decided to go against it. And that's what created the whole problem, the protest, what they call. And now all kinds of elements are in it.
Sharmaji, my thought process is a little, I want to talk about a much more serious issue here. And both of you, please do say your thoughts on it. What I'm noticing is that the Breaking India forces have now come out in the open. And the reforms in India will never satisfy all 100% of the people. It's a country of 1.3 billion people. So the anti-India forces, the Breaking India forces, are working towards, which I have said in this program a couple of times, that they will do, come hell or high water, everything to derail Mr. Modi's plans for economic revival in India. And they are now out in the open. They are going to use one democratic system, complaint, and that is human rights violation. So everything in India that Prime Minister is trying to do is a human right violation for somebody or the other. We know now, they are all open, whether it's the Western democracy, but fortunately, US government announced on Thursday that they support the agriculture reforms. They have encouraged people to talk, and they made a mention that even Supreme Court of India has demanded that everybody must talk, because dialogue is the only way to resolve issues. So talk about these enemies of India and how this issue needs to be addressed.
Mr. Jha, you're very right when you say there are 1.3 billion people in India and there's going to be some kind of controversy. Even in a family of 5, 6, or 7 members, not everybody agrees with everything. So among 1.3 billion people, there has to be division. That's number one. Number two, what has happened in the last 6 years is Modi versus the rest of the political parties. As we know, we grew up with Indian National Congress, but now it seems that Indian National Congress has been erased completely. They don't even get a seat or two in each state anymore in parliamentary elections. Other opposition parties are also scared that they are next. Modi wave has been so good that all the parties have decided if they don't join hands together, they may become Indian National Congress, means they all may disappear. So they have joined hands just to oppose Modi government. It makes no difference to them whether Modi government's policies are right or wrong. So that's why they all are united. And number three, as you mentioned and everybody else knows, there are powers outside of India that don't want to see a strong India or an India which can be number 2 or number 3 nation in the world, whether it's China, Pakistan, or some of the other powers. And we all know that this fight, or called farmers' protest, is being funded not by the Farmers Union of India, is being funded by ISI, Pakistani government, China, I'm sure is contributing, and all the other Khalistanis who live outside of India, whether they are from Canada, US, or United Kingdom, or some of them even from Italy, they are funding this movement. And these are anti-India organizations. So their interest doesn't lie in a powerful India or an India which abides by the law. Indians have been used to corruption and power. So all these organizations and opposition parties want to see weak India where money can buy anyone. And they do not want a strong India where corruption does not exist and law is the talk of the land. So they want to go back to the same India that we saw for 60, 70 years.
That's a good point. I also wanted to, Vimalji, you are from Punjab. Am I right about that?
Well, I have factory in Punjab. I have factory in Moradabad. Mainly, I'm from New Delhi.
Okay, but you are definitely familiar with the terrain and the state and the politics and the economics of that. My thought process was something different, that we have had many conversations amongst NRIs living in Long Island and other parts of the country here in the United States. What intrigued me was that how was it that only the Sikh group of people in the United States were vehemently opposing the farmers' movement here by taking protest rallies in San Diego, in Canada, in UK, in New York, whereas as if the farmers from every other state in India didn't matter. That was something which intrigued me. And what bothered me was that none of us were opposing the farmers' agriculture bill the way the Sikhs were opposing here, as if they were also echoing the same organizers' belligerence that repeal the law before we talk. Now, that was pretty interesting for me. I wonder why Andhrites didn't go on a strike here, why the Maharashtrians didn't go on a protest here, Biharis did not go on protest here, West Bengal. Nowhere else people, NRIs of those denominations, those states, protested the way the Sikhs did. What do you see was the underlying factor for that? It's a question, it's not an allegation. So let's discuss this as openly and as truthfully as we can.
Well, see, if you look at the whole situation, the farming industry right now, it's the Punjab and Haryana that are mainly dependent on MSP, minimum support price of India. And that's where now, but they don't even produce as much as UP and MP and Bihar produce. So, right. But their interest is more linked to MSP because they are the ones who are dependent on MSP. Now, that doesn't really mean the government is going to get rid of MSP, but they just think because of all the excitement that is created by Akali Dal, and Akali Dal is under the impression that BJP will run away with this bill and they will be in a forefront and people will be very happy that BJP did all this stuff. And then they will be left out. So Akali Dal and Congress party, they decided they need to go against it. Now, initially, if you know, I don't know if you heard the news, Mr. Badal's wife, she resigned. She was a minister, she was appointed, and then she resigned. And initially, she supported the bill.
Correct.
Everyone supported the bill. All the MPs who were elected from Punjab, who are in New Delhi, they all supported the bill in Rajya Sabha. They all supported the bill in Lok Sabha, and that's how it passed. And all of them suddenly became, in October of last year, all of these came out of their caves or whatever, wherever they were, and they started opposing it because they realized that this bill is going to give BJP a big, big applause that BJP did such a great thing. Because the whole bill, if you read it, it's all for the farmers, for the benefit of the farm. Look, I'm a factory owner, and I see what I've seen in the past. We came out of mandis, which decided not to buy from mandis because mandis have become infiltrated by brokers, officials appointed by the state. State found that a mandi was a great way to generate revenue. And then when farmers used to come in the morning with their bullock carts or tractors or whatever, they were put up they were set up in line and everything, and then they were demanded money. That whoever gave money first gets to be in front of the line, and their stuff is going to be used first. So everyone was supposed to pay fees. Everyone was supposed to bribe the official that were appointed by the state government. Now, these people, they basically misused. They are exploiting the farmers. And And you know, the biggest thing that bothers me, all of these people in US and Canada who are supporting the farmers, why don't you go to the border of Punjab and India and Delhi and sit over there with the farmers, eat there with them, sleep with them, and spend all the time with them, take a shower or bath, whatever they can get from and drink the water that are provided. And that's how you would support them, not just sit here and try to do it because it's not going to matter.
That's a very good point that, that if you want to support, then support on the ground rather than trying to create a ruckus out of here and create an external pressure. And I am of the opinion, Rakesh ji, that the organizers of the farmers' protest, they have kind of made it very political, as Vimal ji very rightly pointed out, that the whole thing is about politics and not about the issues. Because what the Farm Bill does, in my opinion, as I have read and understood it, and as a student of banking and bank economics, and I have seen Indian economy operate in its worst of times and is gaining the best of times, is that yes, everybody is virtually shocked that the amount of things Mr. Modi has been able to accomplish in his short term of now up to 6 years than Congress party had done in 60 years. So that is the biggest challenge. And this brings me to another issue. The protest that has been arising, the commentary that is going on, that the organizers have roped in Rihanna, Mia Khalifa, and whoever, in these processes there. How genuine is that? And what must the government do about it? I proposed that for inciting riot, because I definitely believe, I've read the provisions in the US Constitution, the rule book, which says very clearly is that, I just made a note of that. And it says very clearly that you cannot use the process to incite violence. The 18 US Code 2101 says that whoever travels interstate or foreign commerce uses any facility, but not limited to the mail, telegraph, telephone, radio, or TV with intent to incite a riot, to organize, promote, encourage participation in or carry on a riot, to commit any act of violence in furtherance of riot, to aid and abet, faces a fine and imprisonment up to 5 years. So I'm of the opinion that somewhere along the line, whether India of a foreign group here or NRIs here, file a suit against these people for interfering and incitement of riot. That's what Greta Thunberg has done. She's inciting riot. It is a sad element, but this issue can't be let go. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there are two different aspects. Number one, to make laws and act on them. Number two, just make laws. What India has done beautifully in the last 70 plus years, they create all the laws, but they don't do anything.
Right.
Which we see again and again, especially with celebrities, like when Sushant Singh died, there has been a CBI inquiry and other dozen laws. Everything is broken. CBI cannot do anything, or CBI has been told not to tell the truth. So you can make all the laws against Rihanna or Greta, whatever. But these people know very well that in India, you get away with murder. You just have to know someone or bribe someone. So the point is not the laws that exist in India, but nobody acts on them. A simple example I would give you, there's a law in India that before you change your religion, you must file with the district attorney, and then it takes, I think, a month or two before you go in front of the judge and change your religion. But not a single person has been charged to violate this law in India since 1950. Not one person. Forget about the organizations. And as we know, roughly 1,400 Hindus are converted to different religions every day in India. So these are the laws that exist, but nobody cares and nobody acts on them. So the problem with politics is that anytime a party comes in power,
right,
They just play their own game. Now, Modi government, yes, they are very honest to the country, but at the same time, they should also realize that these days the game is a PR game. It's a social media. If you have two women uh, going along with the farmers' protest and say, well, Modi government is violating human rights, and from morning till night, that's what they show on their show. Social media just jumps on that, and that's what they do. Modi government also needs to do a lot of PR work, which they haven't done. So we saw that uh, in CAA, when you create some law, but you do not do the homework before you bring it to the attention of the public, and that's what happens. This time again, before they, tackle the farmers' protest, they should have done good homework trying to teach the public, not the farmers. Farmers know very well, to the public that we have done a good thing for the farmers.
Right.
One basic thing is the farmers can sell their product to anyone. I mean, this is the best thing that can happen to them instead of going to the mandi and sell anything through the broker and give a huge or pay a huge commission. So government has failed to relay to the public that this is good for the farmers. They should have killed the farmers' protest in the very first week through PR work, but they did not do it.
I would very strongly agree with your thought in this regard, because I believe that unless and until you create the narrative for what you are trying to do and sell the idea, that's very important to communicate the message, because you just don't make the law and leave it at that and expect people to understand and leave it in the hands of the vicious groups of people who then exploit it. And one of the things which I noticed, I realized that the criminals and antisocial elements thrive on the compassion of the society and the law, in the name of whatever you may call it. But you brought in two subject matters, and this is also very important. The role of social media, the big tech oligarchs, the Facebook, the Twitters, and what have you. The message goes viral in matter of seconds. And that's how it also imposes
Yes, that's correct.
a call for some amount of integrity and honesty. So people are able to see through very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the role of big tech here? When government of India requested Twitter to stop some of the canard that they were spreading, they refused it. They reinstated the whole thing within an hour. But here, Mr. Trump has been banned forever for supposedly inciting a riot or attack on the Capitol. But nobody is saying or doing anything about that in India. So you see the double standard in play. And the second element is that element of religion that you brought in. And my thesis is, and I will make a submission to you and to the audience, think about it. Religion. I find that Hinduism, which is in reality a Sanatan principle, depends on natural laws. It is based on science. It's based on understanding of the nature the way it is. With the development of science and technology, the organized religion is finding it very difficult to sustain its own hold on people, because religion thrives on the ignorance of people and the fear of people. So thunder and lightning don't happen because gods are angry. You don't go to heaven by confessing your crime, nor do you go to heaven, which nobody knows where it is, by killing 5 people in the name of religion. This is a very important point. And I notice that people are now demanding questions. The iPhone, the computer that we are using right now, there is no religion written on it. You and I do business. Money has no religion. You are a doctor, Rakeshji, you are a doctor. You know the patient that comes to you, he doesn't have a monopoly of cancer being Islamic monopoly, or ulcer having a Christian monopoly, or migraine having a Hindu monopoly. There is no religion in the human body. It's a human element part of it. Is that also the reason that people fear that the economic might of India may spread its divine Sanatan principles to the world around us to create different awakening? So organized religion is also against India. That's why they go to India in the name of freedom of religion. I despise that phrase, freedom of religion. We Indians are totally practicing freedom as a way of life. Pray or don't, nobody says anything about that to you. You are going to heaven, or your karma will determine your life tomorrow. We know that part of it. So, Vimalji, your thoughts on some of these issues that I mentioned about?
Well, Vibhuti Ji, you made a very good point. See, important thing is that if you look at all the countries in the world, and majority is more like United States and India and some European countries. Even I don't consider most of the European countries to be totally secular, even though they claim to be secular. But if you look at these countries, and especially look at US and India, that both the countries 100% allow any religion to prosper. To any religion, they welcome every religion to come in, and you can open a temple. All you have to do is go to your municipality, get a permit to build a temple. There's no stopping, and you get a tax break, no tax on an institution. So these are the pillars of these countries. This is a pillar in India that it allows, and guess what? People have taken advantage of this thing that India has, where all the different religions have come. Any religion you think about that have come from outside, Judaism, Muslim, Islam, and Christianity, that have actually come to India. And they have basically, like Christianity, they have given money to hungry people, and they said, look, we're giving you food, believe in Christ. And they became Christians. Muslims came, and they turned Indians into Muslims by violence or atrocities. And all kinds of things happen. Now, there are some religions that came out of Hinduism, which is Sikh and Jainism and all other smaller religions. Now, what happens is that tells you India actually, it embraces everybody in the world. Any religion comes in and they prosper. They have a right to do whatever they want, to practice their own religion. And that actually infringes on the rights of majority religion, which is Hinduism. Because as Hindus that we constantly get attacked, bombarded, and we are always said, we are always called, we are sector, or we are racism, or we are racist, or we believe in our religion, when everybody else claims to be beat their own drums. Sikhs come out and they say, okay, Sikh is the religion. So what I'm trying to say is that we all have to live together. And this is the beauty of that country, where every religion is welcome, and they have freedom to do whatever they want in the name of their religion. And even Bhagwan Rajneesh, he had his own cult in India. No one, there was some revolt, but other than that, he was able to practice whatever he wanted. So this is what I feel, that there is going to be a time when this melting pot, even India is a melting pot of different religion, that there will be some majority will come out of other religions, and Hinduism will fall back, and a number of people will come down. And I think Hinduism may be in minority over time. So this is the feeling I have about India and the religion.
That's a very important point, because, Hindus are, I personally feel that Hindus are under constant attack, because, by one way or the other, we are branded as idol worshippers. The monotheistic religion and Abrahamic religion attack us in the name of religion, that we worship anything and everything. They look down upon us. And it's for us to create that narrative. So Rakeshji, I wanted you to touch upon this subject. In addition to that, there is one thing which is happening in America. America is an example of democracy. India is an example, a successful case study of democracy. Both the countries are right now under tremendous stress. And the stress is coming from the left, the liberal-oriented societies and the parties that are embracing the vote bank politics is going on very, very strongly. And to the end that I am totally appalled that the Democratic Party in this country goes ballistic over everything that people oppose them as a political belief system. So I may not agree with everything the Democrats say, doesn't make me evil, but that's exactly what they are doing in their narrative, that they attack you if you are right of center. And that is what is happening in America, which is making the statements that come about, like the deplorables, and people, educated people in Democratic Party talked about detoxification of those who supported Trump. How vile is that thought? And the second part is the technology part. The technology industry, the media, Facebook and Twitter, they don't create any asset. They are making use of a tool to become rich for themselves by bartering your and my emotions and managing and manipulating through artificial intelligence and data analysis to bombard us with thought processes that we don't want to hear. So recently you may have heard about that Florida Governor DeSantis imposed, I think he's issued orders or he has asked the state legislature to pass laws that if you deny the people from the right in any way a presence on their platform, to impose penalty. What do you think about that? So two issues that I have for you to talk about.
Well, it's a big subject, but let me tackle a little bit of each. Number one, India had a lot of harmony before it became independent when it comes to the religions that all originated in India, which is Sanatan Dharam, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. So before 1947, we did not have much demarcation. In fact, we all grew in India. I came to this country at the age of 25, right. And I had no idea that Jainism and Sikhism were different religions. I thought they were part of Hinduism. Right. Half of my friends in New Delhi were Sikhs. Still they are. And we never thought that Sikhism was a different religion. They went to Mandir with us. We went to Gurdwara with them. Right. And marriages between Punjabis, whether you are a Hindu or Sardar, were very common. And so what happened after 1947 was Nehru made a big mistake or very calculated step that Maulana Azad was made first education minister of independent India. And Maulana Azad was actually born in Makkah. And he had a very calculated move. He wanted to weaken Indian society. So there was a division created, first on the caste system. Number two, break down Hinduism into different religions, Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, and Sikhs. And I think they kind of are successful when you look back today of the last 75 years. So somehow, when you look at Guru Granth Sahib, Hari is Bhagwan, is mentioned more than 3,000 times, and Ram is mentioned more than 1,500 times. But if you ask a lot of Khalistanis today, they think that Ram and Krishna are not part of Sikhism, which is very shocking to me. So when we see all these so-called Sikhs in Canada, US, and UK who are anti-Modi, they are nothing but they are Khalistanis. I'm sorry to say that. A lot of Sikhs are being included in them, but most of the Sikhs are Sikhs. They are not Khalistanis, but Khalistanis are very vocal, and they are the part of the problem. So they should be really kind of separated from the good Sikhs. I have plenty of good Sikh friends. So that's number one. India has gone wrong with the policies of Nehru and Maulana Azad. What Modi government should do, here's the solution. Bring back Vedas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, teach them in middle school and high school. There should be a compulsory education of Hinduism or Sanatan Dharam, which includes Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. People should be taught these things. In India, by the way, you cannot teach Hinduism, which is very shocking to me. In Pakistan, you can teach Islam. In Saudi Arabia, you can teach Islam, but in India, you cannot teach Hinduism. So that's one aspect of religion where we are actually being denied to learn our own religion. Number two, coming to forces that want to weaken us is all these forces that don't want to see India a strong nation or a nation where values are upheld. I mean, if you look back 50, 60 years ago, people have very high morality in India. Now, what's happening is morality is not being talked about. Money is the morality, which is, again, very shocking to me that people are in Western nations are giving less importance to money, but more to morality. In India, it's just the opposite. Number three, coming down to social media. There's a big billboard in Lower Manhattan, and it says the fastest growing religion in the world is atheism. So it means atheists are growing the fastest. So people on the left are taking it to a different extreme where not connecting to any religion is considered the best part of your life. So being atheist is considered like you are intelligent and you are not part of the problem. In fact, I think religion is the one thing that besides your own family is something that you always get relief in. If you are in any kind of distress or problem in your life, there are only two things that ever help you. One is your family and friends, and number two is your religion that teaches you how to be peaceful. So religion is not a problem, but it's a solution. So in social media, we are kind of being taken to another extreme where we are learning wrong things. When it comes to technology, I think I love technology. I don't find fault with technology, but it depends on how we use technology. Cell phone today has connected us. We can talk to our loved ones in a minute, and we can keep an eye on them, or they can keep an eye on us. So I think crime will go down because of cell phones, and we are connected to people in India. Remember, 30 years ago, we had to pay $5 a minute to talk to someone in India. Now it's all for free. So technology is a great tool for the humanity, but at the same time, we have to decide, do we want to use technology for the good of the humanity or to create more problems? Like social media can create more problems by sending wrong signals or wrong information to people. On the other hand, we can make use of social media to be very good and to help rest of the people that we love, or the rest of society that we love.
So use of technology and the religion part of it is very important, and the rise of atheism. So the atheism, as I see it, is not is freedom from religion. I would put it that way, that a mandate or a requirement. There is a group of people who call themselves ex-Muslims. So they have left the subservience of Sharia law and become free. So because they are living in this part of the world, they have become free on their society. The other issue is very important again. Sharma ji had alluded to that, the application of law, the implementation of law in terms of a just manner. So in this particular moment, there is a very interesting concept in social psychology and anthropology that one of the things that riots and mobs do is to provide the participants the sense of anonymity. There was a time when mob was mob. You never knew who was in it. But today, due to technology again, we can get the biometric prints, you can get the videos and everything else. So mob is no longer a mob. There are people who can easily be identified. I think the government must take an action, which is what is required. The government must take action, because if you have seen somebody wielding a sword on a policeman, and that's what is important. Police wears a uniform to protect and defend the society, uphold the rule of law of democracy. If you send the policemen in the 26th January thing, why did you send them if you did not expect them to take action? The result was they got beaten up. So people who have been caught doing that, how can the government take an action on them, and what action must be taken? I am saying, my opinion is they ought to be prosecuted to the rule of law to the final extent. Vimalji, what do you think about that?
Okay, see what happens is, Vibhuti Ji, if you understand, or if people understand what exactly happened on January 26th, the police had, and New Delhi police had a pact, an agreement with all the Kisan unions day before that protest will start after the parade is over.
Right.
And it was announced to everybody that protest will start once the parade is over. And they all agreed on it because they figured it's better that way. It's more organized, because when the parade is gone, protesters can come in, they can start making a rally, and then they go home. Now, but that didn't happen. Apparently, protesters showed up at 9 or 10 a.m. Now, police wasn't ready for that because police was taking care of the parade. And that started the whole thing. Now, very important thing here. The police was at a restraining orders. They were given orders that you will not do anything. You will step back. You will just watch. You will not attack the crowd. You will not attack the protesters. You will not you will not fire the guns. You will not start lathi charge, and you will not do anything to hurt anyone. And if you see, this is what exactly happened. But guess what? Because all these Sikhs and Punjabis and from all these farmers or so-called farmers, they showed up with the swords and kirpans and machetes and all kinds of weapons in their hands. So this was a war. This was not a protest. This was a war. They came out and they wanted a war because they were waiting for police to shoot at them. So this way they could blame the government. They could blame Modi for causing this problem. They could show on TV all that blood that's coming out. But look, police was very careful with this whole thing. And this is why they were allowed to go on the Red Fort. But guess what? It's not going to happen again. People did it the first time. And the government was told, the policemen were told to step back and let these people do what they can do, because otherwise the policemen would get hurt. And they step back. Now it's totally barricaded. No one can get into the fort, Red Fort or anywhere near that. So that's what I think. Now look at what happens. Modi government looks better. 60% of the protesters are gone from the borders. Only people who are left, they come in the morning, leave in the evening. And guess what? There are about 10, 20 crore people in India who are hungry and they need food for every day. Those are the people there. They want food. They're there because they want food. People want to go to jail because they want food. In jail, they provide them food. That's why they go to jail. They commit a crime and go to jail. So this is what you see. Right now, the thing is totally changed over there. And it's Modi government is sitting tight. And they're saying, you know what? I'm not going to do anything in Punjab. I'm not going to do any development in Haryana. You guys handle it. And let me see what happens.
I think the government has ended up being wise. I would put it that way. You can blame it for inaction, but you cannot blame them for violence, which is what the Prime Minister had done, that in 6 years' time, he built India's image. He built his own credibility around the world. He built the credibility in the, 2 years ago in the United Nations address, when the Article 370 was nullified, and 35A withdrawn. He didn't talk about that at all. He talked about asking the world to participate and join in India's endeavor to remove poverty and participate in the economic development of India and thereby gain from that itself. So, Sharmaji, there is another thing which I have in mind to check with you is that, going forward, I think one of the things that happens, every disaster brings about some good thing somewhere else. This has united the people of India. This Rihanna,
Yes.
Mia Khalifa, and all these people, Greta, those stupid people, I would call them stupid because they had no locus standi, no business to comment on this matter. If you had any social consciousness was awoken because of India's farmers' plight, you should participate in the Black Lives Matter here. You should participate in removing the elements that you fought for and fix United States first before you go to somebody else. If my own house is not in order, who the hell am I to advise you how to fix your life? So that's the important part here. Going forward, what is the action required? I mean, do we let it go? Because if you do not take an action, then you legitimize the illegal acts. That's very important. Think about it from this perspective, that the entire process of Jammu and Kashmir scenario was a temporary measure brought in at that time. It was a temporary measure. Prime Minister Modi, who was challenged by Sheikh Abdullah and others, Farooq Abdullah and Owaisi's, that Modi ji 100 saal tak 370 nahi hata sakte. By the provision of law, a legal maneuver, they were able to do it very successfully. That really took the blighters out of the opponent's hand. Suddenly, Pakistan is now saying that, oh my God, it was applicable in India and there is an internal law, and they took care of it. Likewise, in this particular scenario, there is an action required to happen. The Farmers' Bill is supposed to be, I have not found anything wrong in it. Political demand of MSP, government agreed for that. We'll take care of that. But there is political thing going on. How does the Indian diaspora around the world, what do you and I do sitting in America? Here, how do we gain voice? And I will say this one more thing here. I am openly demanding from the government that if you want Rakesh, Vimal, and Vibhuti to succeed in our individual efforts to educate, we need your support. You can't be successful working independently because we are all individuals voicing our concern because of the love of the country, right? But our ability to do something direct is limited other than having a conversation on TV. So what should we do next? Shall we continue on? To what extent the government must support us, in addition to the fact that Ministry of External Affairs issued a press release on these so-called stars giving statements. The question is, how do we fix that narrative of India between you, me, the three of us, and the audience and the Indians around us?
Yeah, there are certain things that government of India can do unless they have already started doing it. This is not just a small step, but this is a long-term strategy. One they have done very successfully is to isolate Pakistan. As we all know, Pakistan was flying in the sky 10 years ago. But in the last 6-7 years since Modi government came into power, Pakistan has been cornered and no nation wants to stand next to Pakistan except China. So that strategy has worked very well. Number two, India successfully has also worked very well against China. As we know, India, US, Australia, and Japan, 4 nations have worked very well to contain China since COVID started. And India should keep this alliance alive. Don't let it get weakened. So that's how you are going to restrict Chinese influence in the region. And India is doing great job. That's why they are helping Vietnam, they are helping Myanmar and other nations with COVID-19 vaccination. So that's on a bigger scale. On a smaller scale, what else should India do? As you mentioned, people who live outside India, Indians. Now, Indian government has every right to restrict visa to anyone who is anti-nation. All these people, or so-called Khalistanis, or other Indians, whether they are Hindus or Muslims of Indian origin, Indian government has right not to grant them visa. So when these people apply, government should follow each and every person who lives outside India and who is participating in these kind of demonstrations against India, whether that was outside Indian embassy in London or they are creating processions in Manhattan. And Indian government should really make a list of those people and don't let them enter India ever. When you ask about what Indian government should do for Vibhuti Ji, you or for Vimal or for me, Indian government should also realize that there are plenty of NRIs that are working very, very hard to project better image of India in whichever country they live in. Like people like us, if we are spending our time on TV projecting better image of India or criticizing people who are anti-India, they should really have some kind of organization where they help us in creating better image of India, which can be done through Indian consulate or other Indian leaders. They should really encourage good NRIs to come forward, and that way we help our country, not only the country that we live in, but also the country we came from. And that should be the government's agenda. I'm not saying bribe us or whatever, but encourage good NRIs to project better image of India outside India. And that's what we all need, which to me is a good point, because since Modi came into power, India's image in US, UK, and other countries has gone up sky high. Yes, everybody now knows that India is a good country and Modi is a popular leader. And suddenly people for the last few years have been looking at Indians who live in US or so with a good image. And that's what we need Indian government to keep spending energy where NRIs are projected in a better way. And so indirectly, we project better image of India in the countries where we live.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Vimalji, last word to you on with reference to specific question is that, Vimalji, can you hear me? Hello, Vimalji, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, you're breaking up. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. The last question.
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
You have a minute to tell me one thing, is that how does the plan to collaborate with the government in India and the NRIs here,
I'm sorry you're breaking up,
and all that, how does that become effective? 1 minute, your solution for that. How does that become effective?
Okay. Well, the thing is, see, I feel that the government has a lot on their plate to actually really do anything for people like us and you and everything. They have to run the government. They have to run the people, 135 crore people. It's a lot of people, and it's not easy task. So what I think they can do is, number one, give us citizenship, which is overseas citizen of India is no good. They need to give citizenship to people, a second citizenship, so we are allowed to carry a passport, which is very important. And I think that will make us better in terms of voting in the elections in India, because we all are so pro India, no matter what religion, party, or whatever it is, either Congress, BJP, or whatever. And that will make a big difference in our participation.
Thank you. That's a demand, that's a request, and many countries allow dual citizenship. So why not with India to do that? Technical issues apart, there is no issue that can't be resolved. If there are Americans who are citizens of France and citizens of Portugal and Israel, why can't Indian also have a dual citizenship with India? And that will make us much more actively involved in the process. So thank you very much for being with us today, Rakesh ji and Vimal ji. Thank you very much for an invigorating conversation we had. And we have to always continue to have this dialogue. And viewers, get engaged, get real. You are not going to, this is a very extraordinary situation. When India is in the cusp of global change, India is on the cusp of becoming a superpower. Economic might is necessary. And everything that Modi will try to do, the enemies of India will try to distract it by instigating those group of people who are unsatisfied. Now, it happens all the time. There is no law, there is no rule, there is no country which is 100% perfect. Nothing is 100% perfect. The concept of perfect economy exists only in the books of economics when you have to give an example. Perfection is not the end of the story. There is no right answer, but we can always have and arrive at a better solution, better way. Let's agree to disagree. Let's respect that violence is not the way. Let's respect that whatever happens, it happens for the good. We know that philosophy. So why not let the things unfold? Because you can always retrace the step. If you don't try it, you never know it will work or not. So you have to give a chance to work, for things to work. If it doesn't work, roll it back. There is nothing preventing you from rolling back. The law is not to be there forever. If it doesn't work, change it. That's what amendments are all about. But I am of the opinion that government must not relent on the threat, the bullying, that repeal and then only talk will happen. The farmer representatives, by refusing the Supreme Court suggestion that have a conversation, have weakened their case. Let's not give in. With these words, I wish you all a great week ahead, a great time ahead, and see you next week again. Thank you.